This meeting is called to order for April 20th, 2021, 7 o'clock regular council meeting. Public input, maximum of 30 minutes. Public input is for the purpose of permitting people in the gallery to provide input and should not be longer than 30 minutes unless approved by the majority vote of council. Each speaker may provide a respectful comment on any topic they deem appropriate and not necessarily on the topics of the agenda of the meeting. The public input opportunity is meant for input and questions and answers. Each speaker may not speak longer than 2 minutes, but may have a second opportunity if time permits. Each speaker must not be allowed to speak regarding a bylaw in respect to a public hearing has been held. For the record, they would state their name, but we're not doing that. So a recommended resolution that the public input section be moved to the end of the agenda for question period. Do you have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none? Motion carried. Introduction of late night items. We're going to have something that Anne's bringing forth we're going to move it to new business. Approval of the agenda, recommended resolution that the agenda for the regular council meeting of April 20th, 2021 be approved.
So moved.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
There is an amendment to the agenda under section 8, under recommended resolutions. Right below that, correspondence be received. Right below that is regarding a notice to Ruth Mary Snyder is done. We're not doing that tonight. So you can cross that off, please. Any further discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Minutes of the previous meeting. Recommended resolution is that the minutes from the special council meeting held on March 30th be adopted. There is no special council meeting from the 30th. We did not have a quorum, so that is off. And that the minutes from the regular council meeting held on the 6th of April 2021 be adopted. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Petition and delegations. I guess this would be the time to admit them. We have Digital Marketing Agency regarding the Village of Sayward's new website. Hello. Who do we have on board?
Hello. Hi, I'm Ava Caputo.
Hi, Ava. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Good. Welcome. And the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much. It's an honor to be here today and to meet with you guys and discuss your new website that's currently in progress. I'll give you a little bit of a background here. So I'm Client Services Manager with Up and Up Studios, and Up and Up is a Victoria-based company with offices across Canada in Calgary and Kitchener. So we've got the 3 offices. It was founded in 2012, and to date we've worked on almost 40 municipal websites. So earlier in March, we were selected as the successful proponent for your new website. We've had some initial planning meetings with your team, and we've actually begun work on the website, which is actually quite exciting. So it's still very much a work in progress. There's a lot to be done yet, but we do have a sneak peek that we are able to show you tonight. So just a little caveat before we kick this off, and hopefully I can share my screen and show you. But we've brought in some of your images and things like that. But as part of the scope of the project, we are also migrating all of your existing content from your existing site to the new one. So that hasn't been done yet. So the site is quite empty, But what I'm able to show you today is the layout, the look and feel of the site, and just kind of give you, yeah, like I said, a sneak peek of how it will look in a few months here.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. Okay. All right, so I think you guys can all see your existing website. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
Yes.
I thought I would start with where you are and a quick scroll. I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with your website. And then I will scroll over to the staging site that we are currently working on for you guys. So, ta-da, here it is, my grand reveal. I don't have any drums to roll, but here is the basic layout of how your homepage is going to look. So we've got your existing navigation that we're working with currently. As I mentioned, we're bringing pages over one for one for now, and then we'll have the opportunity to refine this navigation further once we kind of bring everything over. But there's a nice top nav, really simple drop-down menus. There's a beautiful feature image here. And then you have the opportunity to use this sort of feature area here to highlight specific content to either your residents or your visitors. Now, like I said, for now, I've just selected things that I think would be of interest to your residents. And there's some, feature callouts that are even more prominent. So we call this like a quick links section. We try to hit your users with the most pertinent information off the bat. Like I said, we've just put this in here for now for placeholder, but all of this content and this whole area is actually customizable and editable by your staff. So we can toggle between a resident and a visitor. So if I'm a visitor, I might have separate needs. I might be looking for more information about history, local events, potentially moving here, finding a career. So we've kind of highlighted that content in a couple of different ways for you here on the homepage. And then continuing to scroll down, we'll have an automatic filter of the 3 most recent pieces of news that automatically come into the homepage, and then a link to explore the full news section. And then down at the bottom here, we also have another call to action area. This could be used for various things like COVID news or community cleanup, things that are happening in the area. I should say as well, a prominent alert feature will also be built within this site, so that if there was really important COVID news, as we all know recently, everybody was communicating this news, it will appear in this top up above this top banner here, so that your users will see that alert notification right at the top of the website.
So for emergencies as well? For all kinds of emergencies, fire?
Absolutely, yes. Yep. Pertinent weather information, all of this is going to be controllable by your staff. And so it's virtually within the 5 or 6 clicks, you can have an emergency alert out to your residents. So this is a little bit of a sneak peek. So I thought if we had some more time, I know that you've got a big agenda upcoming this evening, but I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to give some input into the types of images that you would like to see on the homepage, or even some of the information that you think would be pertinent in these sections here for your residents and visitors. Be hoping to get some feedback if we can, or if time doesn't allow, that's fine as well.
I see a hand up. I can't see who it is.
Okay.
Should
I stop sharing, or would you like
Nope,
to?
Councillor Tinsley. Councillor Tinsley.
Councillor Tinsley, go ahead.
I think it looks wonderful. There's some excellent feature photos and things like that, and that's great. And one of the things in us drawing what is becoming the major tourism industry once COVID is done is the feature of what you can see here, particularly when you come down to the water. So I love that shot of, that's one of the most beautiful scenes in the world off our wharf. And my just a suggestion idea, which is I think you're looking for, is to put a byline under pictures, for instance, like this one saying the view off our Sayward Wharf, or there was another excellent shot of the viewing station to the working wood sort. A lot of people don't understand, and we'll get there, I guess, that their family can come down here and literally sit there and watch a working wood sort. And there's an opportunity, I think, maybe on this site to present that information so people, hopefully with, cellular connections and whatnot and websites can actually go in and see, these are the type of the machines that are running there and this is what's going on. And that's one of our main tourism needs, is to bring people down here off the highway and see the beauty of everything from the wood sort to the scenery and things like that. That's my 2 bits.
That's great. That's wonderful feedback. I will draw your attention. I'm not sure if you can see it on my screen, but there is an option for you to have a text overlay on the images. So right now we've just used this as like a photo credit. Sometimes it's incentive for local photographers to submit their photography to include on a website. But yeah, this area could be used for whatever content that you guys would like to use. So that's great feedback. And I certainly think that would be of great interest to your visitors. So it's a nice idea.
Thank you. I see another hand up. I can't see the person.
Sure.
So is it Councillor Polson?
I do have my hand up.
Okay, process of elimination. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Hi, Ava. Thanks very
Hi.
much. It's looking really, really nice, nicely set up. How are you getting the photos? Are those the ones that are on the website, the current website?
So some of the images, yes, we have pulled from your current website or somewhere Google search, and we have been working with your team to get a few assets just for placeholder right now.
Okay.
So this is certainly, like I said, a work in progress. I know that this image is beautiful. It is a little bit grainy, so I'm hopeful that maybe we could find a higher resolution image of this exact wharf or things like that. But again, you guys will have the option to update these images seasonally, quarterly, daily, however you feel. So you'll have the total control over what is the main image on your website. So hopefully, to keep the content relevant and to keep users engaged and focused, you will kind of use that opportunity to update your images and your content on a regular basis.
Okay, so I just have one suggestion is
Sure.
that the signage 10 kilometers on either side of the turnoff to Sayward is big, beautiful welcome to Sayward signs, and it says welcome to nature's playground.
Okay.
So what I'd really like to see in the photos are, rather than just sites, I'd like to see some people, like the shot from the lookout with the person sitting on the rock looking down over the bay is that's, that looks real, it looks alive.
Yes.
And so if we had encouraged people that were submitting shots or taking them to make sure that there was some action in it, like even if there was a kayak or a canoe or a boat out on the water there, it would of that main shot.
I think what we're going to do, Councillor Polson, is actually Photoshop your image onto
Mine?
that top shot. Yes. So just to let you know that it's coming.
Yeah. Okay. And
It's your
the
time
other-
to shine. Yeah.
Councillor Craig, do you have a question?
Yeah, I
Yes,
do.
Jessica.
Hi, Ava. Your
Hi.
website looks very good. Appreciate it very much for all your hard work.
Great.
Perusing Mount Waddington's website, Victoria's website, Vancouver's website, they have the ability to pay taxes online, to download elections forms online. Will our website have those capabilities, or can you install those capabilities in our website?
So for right now, I don't believe you have any of those online services currently existing. But the platform that we are using, which is a Drupal open source platform, is very flexible, intuitive platform. So it is something that we could look to integrate with other online portal systems. So we can certainly discuss that. For the scope of this one, we were just trying to get you up and running, and then it's something that we can certainly add to if and when the need arises.
Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
Yep.
I think it's a good suggestion that Councillor Craig has.
Yep.
I see you have the homeowners grant on there.
Yep.
That type of thing is probably going to be great to have. Can you scroll to the top, please?
Sure thing.
Can you go under municipal services?
Sure. So just so you know, it isn't fully built out yet. These are just your pages, but a lot of them are
Okay.
still empty.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
wait. I'll
That's
wait then.
okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just seeing what's,
Yeah, what wanted to see.
what
Yeah.
is there.
So
Correct.
we do have things like capabilities for you to have online web forms. So this is an example of a form that could be submitted through your site. So users can contact counselors, mayor, whoever they wanted. You can create customized forms for them, and this information is all stored in the database of the website as well. So there are some really interesting tools and things that you can start using to start collecting that data through your website as well.
So now if you go down a little bit,
Yes.
can the robot lie?
Like,
Says-
what do you think?
I'm not a robot.
Oh. This is to discourage like spam users and things like that, right? So, it wants you to select all those images. Yeah,
Does anybody else,
Yeah.
CAO, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you. I thought maybe it would be something that we might call out to the citizens of Sayward to submit high quality photos so that we can have ongoing changes and some, we've got some wonderful photographers in town, so we'll work on that.
Could you put the resolution on there, the pixel size that you need?
I can
Yes.
certainly provide that to Anne, yes, and so she'll have that information.
Thank you.
Sure.
CFO, do you have anything to add for the website?
No, I don't.
Okay. Melissa?
No, I think it looks great so far.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ava. I think that's.
Thank you.
Oh,
Could I
wait.
have- I
Sorry.
just have one more question. I wanted to ask about the tourism information, and is there going to be a link to the tourism committee, or will that be the tourism committee mini website, or how will that work?
Go ahead, Anne.
Thank you. We realized that there was some joint funding giving to the organizations for tourism and for Sayward Futures and for the village. And so we've kept that portion aside for when they're ready to come forward. And then what we had asked in our RFP was that there be the opportunity for them to add on. And I guess, Ava, I'm not really, pardon me, I wouldn't call myself a geek, so I might not use the right words, but my understanding was that we might be able to have some kind of a portal so that when the tourism committee and Sayward Futures were ready, that we would have this ready that they could join on.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And so even for now, we could essentially build out pages that are dedicated to those groups as well. But you have the ability to link to another website or, bring in their content on yours as well. But yeah, linking is no problem. Connecting the two won't be an issue.
Can we also have a spot on there for home-based businesses?
Sure.
Everybody that, all the home-based businesses that do have a business license, I think we should have a little section in there for people to go to and see what's available here to help promote that business. I'm sorry, Councillor Polson, you still have your hand up?
Do you know, I'm still trying to figure out how to get it off there.
Okay, fair enough.
You can see what a geek I am at the computer. Anyway,
Sorry, CAO, you have your hand up?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Baker. Yes, and I think some communities have a link for all businesses that work within their community and sort of a business directory, something similar to what we have in the Sayward News. So we would like to see that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we would
Perfect.
use, I guess, our business licenses as a starting place as well as advertisements. So.
Perfect. I guess for now, that's, when should we expect another update, Ava?
Well, our next task here is to bring over all of your content. And so we are aiming for that later on in May to deliver it to your team for another peek at the site. And the end goal would be that we are launching this before the end of June. So it's quite a quick turnaround here. You should be up and running shortly.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, I see another hand up.
That was me. Just a quick comment. Instead of thinking about posting everybody's home-based business or their own business on the website, perhaps a link to the Chamber of Commerce or getting in touch with the Chamber of Commerce, because they already have or are supposed to have that information available to everybody. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ava, thank you for spending your part of your evening with us tonight. And that's
Thanks, Ava.
looks great. Thank you.
Yes,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to continue working with you guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Are we clear? We're clear. Recommended resolution that the presentation by Up and Up be received and that council discuss the proposed new website and provide direction and insight to Up and Up on the design and delivery of the new website for the Village of Sayward. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Correspondence. We have several. Did anybody want any of these correspondence pulled so we can discuss them individually, or? Okay. No, I have one. Did everybody read regarding the wolf call on Vancouver Island?
Yes.
I believe we should be supporting that, that they don't do it. Myself, I agree with the people that have sent us the correspondence, and I think we should show our support. Does anybody have any concerns with that? Councillor Craig?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't actually have any real concerns about supporting that, with the exception of one thing. And there's always two sides to a story. So I see the proponents for a moratorium, but I don't see any proponents of a culling. So I don't have any counterpoint to this to base a decision on. I don't honestly particularly know if wolves are a problem here, if they're attacking livestock, for example. I don't know that information, but that's information I would like to know before giving an opinion as to whether to support or not support this.
Okay, so CAO, could we get some more information on that, please?
Yes, I can do that. I just would bring attention to Councillor Craig's, I would just bring to Councillor Craig's attention on page 1, it indicates that in British Columbia, wolves are killed by legal recreational hunting and trapping, which is the largest sense of their mortality. So I don't know if that addresses your concern or not.
Yeah, that's definitely a horrid thing to do. Recreational hunting and trapping is horrid. Ranchers and farmers protecting their livestock and whatnot. It's a different story for me, but I'd like to see if the farmers and the ranchers have anything to say on it. Of course, recreational it's abhorrent to me, but yeah, that's my concern.
Okay. Yeah, I believe this is just discussing the recreational and trapping. And that's where I have the same concern as you do, Councillor Craig. Does anybody else have any comments on that? No? Another one that I want to briefly discuss is D, regarding the correspondence for the building bylaw. I had a conversation with the CAO today regarding that, and I also believe, and we're gonna get into that in the future when we go into the bylaw. But as I said to the CAO today, I think we need to be more precise on our language in the bylaw and clarify what. Sorry, is that clarify a little clearer on what alteration means, because it's very, to me, it's ambiguous. It can be subject to interpretation. So that's my concern with D, and we are going to look at it at a later date. Is that not correct, CAO? I'm sorry, CAO. You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted, Mayor Baker. Yes, that's correct. Although I would point out that all the bylaws, all of the building bylaws I've looked at use the exact same language when it comes to application. And the building, well, we'll talk about that more, I guess, when we do the building bylaw, when we bring it forward.
Okay, thank you. So recommended resolution that the correspondence from A to I be received. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
I'll
Second,
second.
discussion? Hearing none, opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Council report, Councillor Kirschner, Vancouver Library Board.
Yes. I'm just going to read off the lead in to these paragraphs. And one is VIRL branches for quality of life services that level the playing field and ensure an equity of access to vital technologies, resources, and spaces that some people take for granted. We are committed to ensuring that VIRL continues to help people find jobs, reduce financial strains, and provide services and spaces that make people's lives more affordable. This is at the core of our ongoing commitment to strong libraries, strong communities. True reconciliation. Well, it leads off with lasting and meaningful reconciliation. True reconciliation takes time and is about building and maintaining relationships and working with Indigenous communities to help advance their goals and priorities. We will support the advancement of reconciliation both in our branches and beyond. We've already started. Our branches are safe spaces where important conversations to take place. Ideas are shared and relationships forged. VIRL trustees will continue working with our Indigenous partners to advise of the tools we have readily available to assist with their economic development goals and skill building efforts. There's so much we can do to assist advancing true and meaningful reconciliation. And under the title Equity and Anti-Racism. As elected officials, we are committed to ensuring that our councils, boards of directors, municipalities, and libraries represent the true diversity of our communities. As VIRL trustees, we will review our policies and strategic direction, ensuring we are inclusive, welcoming, and accessible to citizens of every age, ethnicity, and background. And then under the title A Better Future Through Fighting Climate Change. VIRL's capital projects prioritize building ownership over any other model. With this approach, we can ensure we build to LEED standard and at every stage look for opportunities to reduce our footprint and impact on the climate, water use, energy consumption, and more. Can you hear that dog barking?
Can, yes.
Anyway, a strong and sustainable economy that works for everyone. Libraries are already well positioned to help the province execute this important mandate. We want to do more and look forward to partnering with the province to build training for individuals, supports for business, and create spaces that offer services, resources, and tools to help our communities grow and thrive. We have bookable spaces for in-village, I can't even read that word now, and hot decking, and other functions. The IRL trustees are active, engaged, and influential at UBCM. We can leverage our positions to push forward motions in support of VIRL and the provincial pandemic response. VIRL service locations are safe, open and welcoming spaces for everyone, including people from vulnerable sectors. Investing in libraries is an investment in safer, more resilient communities. This is an area where we can advocate that libraries could do more with more. Our branches are currently positioned with the personnel to assist and many resources for immigrants, but we could go even further to help newcomers access training, language courses, learning opportunities, and more. We are committed to doing whatever we can to make our communities affordable for everyone. This is an area of sustained focus for us and has been for years. Since 2011, we have supported the substantial renovations or complete rebuilds of 18 branches in communities large and small. These projects employ local contractors, laborers, and a wide variety of other industries. There's still much work to be done to ensure we deliver on the community commitments set out in VIRL's Consolidated Facilities Master Plan. Being open and welcoming provides libraries and library staff with unique insights into the needs and challenges of people experiencing homelessness. We are also acutely aware of the challenges facing our communities and want to be part of the conversations that address the issues of homelessness. And there was just one more little bit I would throw in there, and I'm sure that everybody has read it. But for every dollar invested, customers receive 6.8 thousand in value and 344% return on investment. Value per open hour is 1,784. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Councillor. Okay, so recommended resolution, Vancouver Island Library Board report from Councillor Kirsch to be received. Do you have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Reports of committees? None. Mayor's report, just a quick verbal. We had a call this morning, a Zoom call with the North Island Mayors and the BC Salmon Association. There has still, in 5 months, has not been any response by Minister Jordan's office to the provincial government or to BC Salmon Association or any of the mayors. 5 months, which is, I believe, is quite sad. So that's all I have to add for that. Unfinished business? None. Staff reports. Municipal campground policy, CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. So this is a proposed new municipal campground policy. You may recall that we brought to you on April 6th at the last meeting a list of policies that we had planned to bring forward as priorities for review. This one seems to be more important because the upcoming camping season is just around the corner, and we are recommending that council consider a new policy that can provide for a slight fee increase in order to cover costs and to be fiscally responsible, and also to reduce the length of stay to 2 weeks in order to avoid any situations of permanent residents taking up in the campground, as has been in other communities. These are some of the recommendations that have come out from some of the legal reviews that have been done to address that problem elsewhere. We've attached the previous policy, which is almost 20 years old. But essentially the new policy includes, again, the 14-night maximum stay, and we had previously included a discount for subsequent night stays. But really, there's no real discount to our work. Our staff are required to go every day, clean out the garbage, tidy up the sites, wash the washrooms out. And so there didn't seem to be a fiscal reason to us to reduce this fee when people stay longer. And also because the policy was 20 years old, the rates were low, and they continue to be quite low. We've only rounded them up because a number of people put their money in an envelope, so it's easier to have a nice round figure. And that you know, people are quite diligent about paying. Sometimes they pay in the office here, and often though they leave a little envelope there. So those are the proposed increases from $18 a night to $20 a night, which is, you know, just a round up number really. And then a fee of $25 a night for the service sites, again, which is a pretty good deal considering that there's garbage, washrooms, and full servicing. And so that's really the essence of those policies. This initiative would include rescinding the old policy, which was approved in 2002. So that would be the end of that one, and this would be the new policy, along with the fee schedule and Schedule K. So that's it on this one.
Thank you. Recommended resolution that council receive the municipal campground policy proposed revision report and information and discussion, and the council policy number 600-01 municipal campground policy, and final, that September 2002 campground policy be repealed. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll
So
move that.
Second,
I'll second it.
discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. And a recommended resolution on the priority bylaw report. So CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. This is very similar to what you saw last week, where we brought forward a list of policy initiatives that need to update. This one's a little bit more time consuming in the sense that they're the bylaws. Of course, bylaws are quite cumbersome to or update and overview. But basically, we're asking that council consider setting the priorities so that we can start getting to work on the list of bylaws that need updating. And we're recommending, you know, it is a multi-year project, obviously, because there's, you know, most of the bylaws are a bit old, and really what we want to do is bring them up to market standards. So what we've recommended is a sort of a 4-tier approach. First order would be those bylaws that council have identified as a priority to be updated. The second one would be those bylaws that are revenue bylaws. So that would include the fees and charges bylaw, the building bylaw, and, you know, primarily that would be it. Places where we want to make sure that we're not leaving too much money on the table for the village, just to take a look at that and compare market standards. And then thirdly would be those bylaws that have reached first and second reading, but for some reason did not proceed to final reading. So obviously there was a lot of interest in taking on those works, and so we wanted to get back that on track. And then finally would be the consolidation of bylaws and the repeal of duplicate, redundant, or unnecessary bylaws. You know, I think we're up to about 417 now, because of course it goes back to 1968. So there's a record of all bylaws. So what staff are proposing to do, because it's a bit of a job to go through those bylaws, but it's interesting to look at them, is to post them in a binder in the mayor and council office so that council members can come into the office at their leisure and review them. I guess the other thing we could do is figure out a way to put them in Dropbox. But we just wanted to be able to provide council with the opportunity to look at all the bylaws that are on the books and sort of give direction on what's meant to be done first. Within this sort of general framework of priority bylaws, revenue bylaws, and then those that are almost complete. So that is the intention of this one. Now, the bylaws that are priorities in terms of the market and sort of revenue-based ones would be the fees and charges, the building bylaw, the reserve bylaw, and the permissive tax exemption bylaws. So those bylaws, especially the permissive tax ones, some of them are old and they need to be refreshed or in some cases reviewed. And then there's a couple of others. The fireworks bylaw went to first and second reading in 2019. And of course, you will have seen in the correspondence tonight from a citizen who's very keen to see us pick that up again. The public nuisance bylaw, and then a municipal ticketing bylaw, which authorizes ticketing for bylaw officers in the RCMP. And then, you know, all the other ones that are, there's multiple other ones that are either redundant or, you know, unnecessary after all these years, some of them. So that's pretty much the intent of that staff report, is to get some direction on priorities for bylaw review.
I believe we'll get the opinion of the rest of council, but what you have here on these 7 bylaws, I think are pretty much what the priority should be at this time. What does the rest of council think? Anyone? Councillor
Yeah.
Craig?
I would agree with that.
Okay, Councillor Paulson? I'm sorry, you're muted. Still mute. There you go.
There, I do agree with that, that they are the most important ones to start on. I'm just wondering if the campsite bylaw would fit in under the market rates or revenue generating.
CAO?
Through Mayor Baker to Councillor Paulson, I think I understand you to mean the municipal policy that we just talked about in the previous item.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually, we did a little looking for that. There aren't a whole lot of municipal campgrounds. Our fees are about right with some of them, and it seems a 2-week stay is the norm. They're really kind of all over the place, but we felt that they were close. We didn't want to go too much above what we have, but they weren't out of order with what the market shows. We probably could be charging more, but yeah.
No, I don't think it's out of order for sure. I think it's a great. So it's a policy. It's not a bylaw. Let me get that straight in my head. Okay.
Councillor Kirschner? Councillor Tinsley?
I think this is an excellent plan and a way to address all these various things. I think it makes all sense. Thank you.
Okay, so you agree with moving forward with these 7 to start?
Yes.
Should we be alternating between one fees and charges, one that involves money, to like a fireworks or the nuisance, or should we be alternating? On what order should we be doing this in? CAO?
Well, Mayor Baker, I think that the ones in column 2, the ones that have already had first and second reading, unless they're out of date, but they're only a few years old, they may be fairly quick to get done. They may be a matter of looking at them again and seeing if there's anything missing from between now and 2 years ago when they were sent on their way. But yeah, we definitely can try and bring them forward if they're really quick and easy.
Does everybody have copies of the bylaw number 417 and 456? The first and second reading, so if we can get those sent out. Councillor Craig?
Yeah, I'd like to just talk about bylaw number 456, the fireworks bylaw. Councillor Kirschner and I were on council during that presentation, and I'd like to save everybody here an amount of trouble to review them, because we were going to scrap it anyway. The reason being is because that particular bylaw that was brought to council was, I believe, copied from the city of Vancouver, and it was a good 400 pages long. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it was deemed quite unsuitable for us, and it was to be as polite as I can possibly be on this, unsuitable. The work we found it to be unsuitable for review, so it was not going to go to a third reading. Just letting you know what that council at that time had discussed regarding that particular bylaw amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Craig? Nope, you're off.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Kirchner?
And I'm still in agreement with the previous council on the fireworks thing.
The agreement not to go ahead with what was proposed on your first and second reading and coming up with an alternate bylaw for it? Is that correct?
Yeah, but we gotta have time to come up with a proper bylaw for it, but just to outlaw it, I don't agree with it.
No, I think what we need to look at is what provincial and federal laws state about, fireworks in the village and so on and so forth. I mean, that has to be the guiding principle.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's something I know that the CAO is going to look into. We have a copy of the Comox bylaw here in regarding to fireworks, but we need to know the provincial and federal statute on it. So we'll make sure that we are following the law, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Sound good, CAO?
Yeah, that sounds very good.
Okay.
I agree, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Kirchner. Okay, so that council receive the priority of bylaw review report for information and discussion, and that council provide direction on staff of the next steps. Do I hear a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. Opposed? None? Motion carried. Next, CEO is on the non-compliant properties.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. This relates to a staff report I brought forward several weeks ago, outlining some non-compliant issues. On the recommendation of the building official, we've been advised to place or to seek council's approval to seek a notice on title. Again, this is something that's provided for in the community charter, and it's a tool that is really a consumer protection tool. It provides security for individuals purchasing a home to be advised and notified that there are some BC Building Code infractions with the home. The two properties included here, the infractions are quite substantial, and it will take quite a bit of time to remedy them. And so in order to ensure that the properties aren't sold to another buyer without being informed of these infractions, which could impose some liability on the village because the village administers the building code through the building bylaw. So this is a way to provide notice that there's some infractions. Both the property owners have been notified of this, of council's plan to review this, and while both are keen to see the properties come into compliance, they acknowledge that it's going to take some time. And so that's why we're seeking council approval to place this notice. The notice can be removed. There is a fee to remove it, but it is possible to remove it once the infractions are in place, or are remedied rather. And the other thing that's important to note is that once the title has a notice on it within the land titles office, it does impose some question for mortgaging, for sale. So it's not something that people would welcome. However, it is an interim measure to protect the interests of the village until they're able to remedy the problem.
Okay.
In these cases, I think that the two properties were largely built without building permits. So there are a number of inspections missing and a number of visible infractions that relate to safety concerns as well. So we wouldn't recommend this for, for small breaches. This is a fairly substantial set of infractions that require this kind of action.
Thank you. Recommended resolution that council receive the notice on title for non-compliant properties for information, and that council directs staff to proceed to file section 57 notice on title on 765 Sayward Road The ID 030-284-724, and that council direct staff to proceed and file 57, section 57, sorry, notice on title for 794 Sayward Road. That's 030-284-708. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second? Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Councillor Craig?
I didn't put my hand up yet.
Oh, sorry. I saw you moving to it. I saw you moving, so I figured I'd jump in.
That's funny. Yeah, I actually do have some discussion on this. None of our homes in this village or in the valley were built with guidelines enforced. Not a single one. So, and right now it's my understanding that they don't use the building code enforcement measures in the valley either. So if I'm to understand that we have some liability, I'd like to know how the valley and the SRD has somehow skirted their portion of liability for their homes that are either modified, upgraded, or built that don't adhere to the BC building code. And furthermore, if the owners are complying at this point of time, I think that putting a section 57 is a little heavy-handed at this point in time without knowing exactly what our liability is. If the valley, if the SRD has somehow skirted their liability, it's great that we're going in a new direction. But at this point in time, if the owners are compliant, I'd say that we should give them a chance to be compliant on this. I'm not in favor of filing a section 57 notice at this time until I figure out how the valley has somehow skirted their liability on their homes.
Thank you. CAO, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you. Well, actually, through the mayor to Councillor Craig, the valley hasn't really skirted their liability. They are too subject to the same BC building code. It's the same building code across the whole province. And the province invests quite a bit of time in training the building officials so that they are consistent in its application. And of course, only the building officials can interpret and make recommendations on the building code. So it's a pretty tight set of rules. What the valley has done, though, is they do not offer a building service. So, of course, regional districts operate wholly on services, so which citizens subscribe to either by way of a petition or referendum and then pay for. So the valley doesn't offer a building service to its residents, which means that they do not have a building official going out and doing inspections. But that doesn't mean that the builders themselves are not required to build to the building code. And so some people who build new homes in an area where there's no building service will hire independently a building inspector to come and carry out the inspection so that they, and in fact, that's what they're supposed to do. So I wouldn't say that they've skirted liability, although they may have, there may be sort of an understanding that people know what they're buying, perhaps, because there isn't a building service. Very similar to some of the Gulf Islands where they don't have a building service, but there's an expectation that new homes be built to the code. And I guess the other thing I would want to comment on is the comment about the buildings in the village not meeting the code. It's true that they were all built prior to the current BC building code, and so they may not meet the standards of the code, but that they don't usually consider that as an infraction when the code changes. It's the code that you're required to build to at the time that the code's in place. So, and if major renovations occur, then sometimes the building inspector will require an upgrade to meet current code requirements. But it wouldn't be that anybody else in the village would have an infraction, wouldn't be considered an infraction. It would just be that if they upgrade their property, they might have to upgrade to meet the new code. A really good example is banisters, where there may not have been a requirement for banisters on two sides. Now there is. So if somebody's putting in new flooring or something like that, or anything really, and the building inspector's in there, then they might require them to upgrade to something like that. But just to your original point, there are areas where there's no building service, and so people know what they're buying maybe. But where there is a building service, people have an expectation that there would have been administration of the building code, and that there would have been, that the house would be built to standards. Now, again, in these two instances, the infractions are so significant that it's not a small matter to repair them, and it will take quite some time, and the owners are aware of that. So.
And how did the builder respond to that?
Well, the one owner felt that it was a reasonable thing to do, and he seemed fine, although I've since learned that he's in the process of selling the property. So, the new proposed owner, who I've met with and spoken to, is now aware of that. And that's exactly the kind of scenario you want to avoid, is by, not having somebody unknowingly buy a property that has some significant infractions that would require some upgrade. So, and the other property owners recently purchased the property. I don't know if they were aware or not, but they know now, and we're not really sure. They've expressed a willingness to bring it into compliance, but since there were no building inspections done, the requirement now would be to hire an structural engineering firm to have them do the assessment and identify what needs to be done, because it's not possible to approve the building plans and to go through the inspections and that sort of thing. So one of the houses has very little done on the inside, so there's a fair bit of opportunity to build to the new standard, but there's some structural problems that would probably need to be fixed with the property or the house as well. So yeah, it's not something you'd want to do easily, but again, I do take a lot of put a lot of weight on the advice of the building official, and that's their recommendation. So that's why I'm bringing it forward to council.
Thank you, Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My position would be that this is a village. People know that. There's information available. There's building service inspectors available. We live in 2021. It's unacceptable to build in this type of scenario without understanding what you're doing and meeting the requirements of the code. And I have no problem voting for these measures being taken. It's very important for the liability of the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson. Councillor Paulson, you have your hand up.
On mute.
There. Buttons. I just have a question around, I understand these current two places that are having these notices put upon them, but I'm wondering about the very many other places, other homes in the village that, or in Sayward Village, that have been renovated or altered in some foundational way, or additions and changes, and talking about banisters that they have gone ahead and made the changes and done the renovations and haven't had building permits or inspections. So where do those types of places stand with having done the work already and haven't had home inspections? So if they're sold, wouldn't the prospective buyers be unaware of what that there was no building permits at the time, and they could then be liable for the deficiencies? So I'm just trying to see how we can find a fairness with all of this. If you know, like I know of, we had to have a building permit to do the renovations in our own home, and which we did, and we had building inspections, and worked with the building inspector all the way through. So how would we address the homes that have had renovations done but haven't had any building permits or inspections.
I don't think you can go back on, I mean, when it's a new build, I think that's different. But to go back on a renovation, I don't believe you can. CAO?
Well, Mayor Baker, I think through to Councillor Paulson, we don't go looking for trouble. That's true.
No.
You know, if we hear of something, or if we see a bunch of building supplies coming in the door, or we see something, we might knock on the door and inquire and, you know, politely remind them that they need a building permit. Or if we get a complaint from a neighbor, you know, that's something we would do. Now, again, I would just take a moment to mention that on our new website, we would have the opportunity to post building permits, which many jurisdictions do. So that's another reminder that people can see, oh, what's going on over there? And then they'll see that they've got one. But the other piece of that is that when people sell their homes, they're required to disclose work that's been done. And there could be problems if they don't, or if they do disclose and then they want to have something inspected. So there's some risk to the homeowner. And but, you know, really, I tend to take my leanings from the building inspector, who's the expert. And in this case, they recommended this. If they were to recommend others, that we would explore them as well. But these are two quite prominent ones. And, you know, I don't know. You know, we haven't had to deal with this. We often get people not being aware that they needed a building permit for something, and generally when they're reminded of it, they will get a permit. And so it might be a case of more education as to why we need the permits. But you know, I'm not sure if people realize, but real estate is one of the prime industries in BC. You know, with the property transfer tax, the construction industry, the transportation of materials, the retail of interior furnishings, you know, all the tradespeople. It's a tremendous industry, and it's protected through consistency and high standards. So, and that's all administered through the building code and the building permit process. So I know people don't really link those two things together. But of course, that's our role in our jobs is to do that. So. But we try to be nice about it and not to go after people that we think are doing things they shouldn't.
Councillor Craig?
Yeah, I have a question. While these two houses were being built, where was the building inspector at that time when the foundation was being poured? Where was the building inspector saying, whoa, stop what you're doing right now? Because I happen to know each stage of construction has to be properly inspected: electrical, foundation, plumbing, HVAC, all of that stuff. And if the inspector doesn't sign off on it, it doesn't get to go to the next stage. So if this is a case of somebody dropped the ball along the process, and it wasn't until after these houses were fully constructed, or maybe partially constructed, whatever the case may be, then you're saying after the fact we have an issue. I suppose I wouldn't have a problem with this in any way, shape, or form if it was brand new construction starting from scratch. But after the house has been 70 or 80 or 90% completed, going backwards, I can't get behind it, because we, either the SRD inspectors or us in the past, somewhere along the way, something got missed that allowed these houses to get built with non-compliance. So I would say our liability is already there, but I would say going forward for every brand spanking new construction, absolutely. But in this case, I just can't support this, and I think that's what I have to say on that.
I think part of the problem came in when there was a bit of a vacuum here in governance. You know, so that's where some people may have gone a little bit too far in their build, because there was nobody here at the time. CAO, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, through the mayor to council. Well, first of all, the builder has to call the building inspector and say, hey, I'm going to pour the footings. I need you to come on Wednesday or Thursday. So that has to be the initiative of the builder, because the building official is in Campbell River and covers a number of areas. So they're not looking. But also I would add that these houses are largely incomplete on the inside. One in particular is there's only the shell from the outside, and there has been some delays. The other one is not finished either, and they're working towards completion. And I think the building official has been advising the village of this, and in fact, there's been a couple of different different building inspectors. So there's been some turnover there, and I haven't tracked it entirely, but the current building official has been advising me of this almost from my first day here. So I think it's true that there was a bit of a gap with building officials, and maybe, you know, I think there was some effort. I think at one point there was a do not occupy and also a stop work order. So there's been some presence all along. But again, the builder has been, I think, trying to bring it into compliance, but wasn't following the process. And, you know, we'd have to hear from the builder, who it's the same builder for both properties.
Okay. Last thought by Councillor Tinsley.
My last thought is we live in the 2021. Codes are here. Anyone who would build a new home without understanding that they require building permits is unacceptable, and we need to enforce this as soon as possible and continue down this route for any further violations. People are intelligent. People who build homes, they understand what they're doing. Builders understand that. It's unacceptable to play games with the code, and we must enforce this. That's my side.
Thank you. So the resolution that's on the table here, the council directs staff to proceed to file Section 57 notice and title on 765 and 794. We had a motion on that. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We had discussion. Any further discussion? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Councillor Craig? No more. So the motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to C, financial statement and variance from the 31st. CAO?
Thank you. I'd like to ask that the CFO bring you through this report. This is the financial variance report that we bring forward to council on a quarterly basis. And it's just a comparison of what's been approved, what's been spent. And I'd like to hand it over to Lisa to take you through it, please.
Okay, thank you, CAO, to Mayor and Council. Basically, this is pretty straightforward, this report. There isn't a lot going on because we're only in the first 3 months of the fiscal year. I know we're into April now, but this report only covers from January to the end of March. So, you know, tax revenues have not been collected yet. Provincial government grants have not come in. Requisitions to other governments have not been paid. So there isn't a lot to report on. You know, turning it over to the actual summary page, you can see sort of a comparison between the same period in 2020. And, you know, it looks like things are right on track. They're trending pretty much the same as far as revenues. The one exception would be the recreation center. It's definitely trending lower for revenues, and that's strictly to do with COVID-19 and the reduced attendance levels. And expenses, same thing, fairly consistent and trending, you know, fairly similar to the same period for last year. I don't know if you want me to go through each, you know, revenue item or expense item. I can definitely take questions if you had specific questions on things. Again, it's sort of sparse because there isn't a lot going on right now. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to highlight. I did include a chart at the end of the report, just showing all of the operating and capital projects that are scheduled for 2021. That's on page 57. And I basically just included, you know, a little color-coded column to show council where things stand as far as being completed, whether they're sort of on track, possibly delayed, and you know, red would be if something was canceled or delayed to a future budget. We haven't got to that yet because we're not at the end of the year. Things haven't been pushed to next year yet. So Yeah, I think that's probably all I wanted to say. Unless there was specific questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, CFO. What about reserves?
Mr. Mayor, reserves are listed in the 2020 financial statements. So those were just presented to council last meeting or the meeting before. So the balances that are showing in the financial statements are the same balances that are, showing today.
Okay, thank you. In here, you also have $120,000 for the gen. I believe a quote came in higher than that. Is that not correct?
Are you asking me that, Mayor Baker? I think we had several quotes and they were, they were varied. Some of them were more, some of them were less. There were different, we'd install the concrete pads and the fencing and they do everything. So there was a bit of a range, but we haven't actually identified a revenue source yet. We haven't been approved for any of the grant funding yet. And we're still looking for that.
Okay, there was talk before that we were going to go ahead with the generators because of how important they were to the lift stations. Am I correct?
Yes, and I think we had hoped that we could use the COVID-19 strengthening community money for that. And on the advice of the CFO, I checked with the province on the criteria and they weren't very forthcoming with approval on that. It really is meant to be for COVID. And so, there would be a risk that when we did our reporting, that they would say that that wasn't covered and then we would be in trouble. So we're going to go back and try and seek out more grant funding and, maybe beef up our pleas to the province on that.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, CFO. We had, I believe it was somewhere around 153,000 unspoken for in reserves. Is that correct?
Sorry, which reserve are you referring to? The COVID-19 reserve?
No, the general reserve. What wasn't allocated? I know they were talking about 600,000 in the bank, but there was a lot of the monies that were allocated. So what was not allocated that we have available?
Just looking at the financial statements for 2020. A total of 849,000 is unappropriated surplus. So that's funds that are just available for items and not specifically sitting in reserves earmarked for other things.
So none of that 849,000 is earmarked for something else?
Some of it is. Some of it has been earmarked for the dam. So
right.
There would definitely be a bit of money out of that.
So what hasn't been earmarked?
I can bring that to council to the next meeting if you want.
Sure. I think if we do that, then we could take a look at getting these generators a little quicker because of how important they are. So if the funds are there and it's not earmarked, then maybe we should take advantage of that. What does the rest of council think?
I can definitely bring that to council next meeting.
Thank you. The rest of council, what do you think? Concur? Councillor Craig? See you reaching for the button.
Yeah, I always mute and unmute, right? Yeah,
good.
Bring it to the next meeting. We'll obviously take a look at it. Gen sets are important, especially now. So yeah, definitely bring it to the council in the next meeting. We'll have a look-see at it.
Okay. Councillor Tinsley, you're good with that? Councillor Paulson?
Yes, I would also just like to know what portion of that money may be allocated for future years, like for the, is there a percentage of that could be allocated to the Kelsey Way paving or the major projects that we're looking forward to? So if we could just have that clarified too, so that we don't spend all that money and then find ourselves in the same boat that a few years ago where there is no reserve and things really have to be tightened up.
Well, this is where council, I believe, needs to think about whether or not we take a budget and we allocate 5 or 10% of that into, for example, capital projects. And we put that aside to where we can't use it. But every year, because if we don't start putting money away, as you said, Councillor Paulson, we don't have anything to fall back to.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Kirchner?
I'm just kind of wondering, did we ever get any kind of an approximate ballpark figure on what it would cost to resurface Kelsey Way, the part we're talking about?
Well, what we were talking about is we can't resurface it until we do the infrastructure. Because if you do the paving and spend all that money and then have to dig it up again to do the infrastructure, it's a waste of money at that point.
Yes,
So
I know.
So I think it's important
I'm
for us to get
remembering that, but
yeah. So we haven't put, so until we find out how much it's going to cost and have X amount of dollars put aside to do the infrastructure under whatever we pave, I'm not sure how far we're going with that.
yes, I agree. Okay.
Anybody else? No. CFO, do you have anything else?
No, I think that was it, unless there was any other questions. And like I said, I'll bring another report to council at the next meeting, basically just going through reserve surpluses again and sort of reviewing what was approved through the budget, because that's a lot of the
Right.
stuff that you would have seen already through the capital budget. But I'll do a refresher and bring you a report.
Thanks. I'm old. I forget things. Councillor Craig.
Yeah, through the mayor to CFO. I see the, if you just talk to me about the COVID-19 reserve, I see we got a 15,000 and change variance there. Is that, if you could just talk to me about that, is that because we haven't allocated it to projects yet, or is that, if you can explain that, please?
Through the mayor to Councillor Craig. I'm sorry, where do you see that?
Well, it's on your, it's on your chart there under council, item number 15. Under operating and capital projects, the color coded one, right on the bottom there.
Page 57, CFO.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. So that is budget is 21,000 and spent to date is 5,700. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
So the difference between that is for the public address system, because we don't have it yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
So we haven't, there's been no invoice, there's been no expenditure yet.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, CAO. You're good? CAO, are you still there?
Sorry about that. Yes, no, I'm good. I've got nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Recommended resolution that council receive the financial statement variance to March 31st, 2021 report for information and discussion. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Bylaws, council procedure amendment bylaw number 471. CAO?
Thank you, Mayor Baker. This is the bylaw to amend the procedures bylaw. We discussed it last week, and council wanted to go forward with the process to adopt it. I felt a little uncomfortable that we did it last week without having it actually on the agenda. So if we could indulge council to go through that process again of the readings and adoption, then that would be helpful to the process.
Thank you.
This is based on the discussions we've had several weeks ago and several times now on the amendments to the council procedure bylaw, which will provide for the changes that are listed here.
Thank you. So the recommended resolution is a council procedure amendment bylaw number 471, 2021 be given first, second, and third reading. And that council post public notice of its intention to adopt bylaw 471, the bylaw to amend council procedure bylaw number 416 from 2015. And finally, that staff be directed to return on May 4th, 2021 to provide council with any received comments or proposed revisions for final adoption of Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw 471. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Thank you. Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Zoning Amendment Bylaw 473, 2021 recommended resolution. Sorry, go ahead, CAO.
Thank you. This is to amend the zoning bylaw, which we talked about several weeks ago with respect to the residential commercial zoning, to remove the one clause that provides for a single family dwelling in an area that's set aside in the OCP and the zoning bylaw for higher density housing. There's the 4 lots. All property owners have been notified, including all of the members in the apartment who own property in that zone. And any questions and unresolved issues or concerns have been addressed. So staff feel comfortable that council can go ahead with the approvals at this point to give 3rd reading and then the 4th and final reading.
Thank you. So recommended resolution is that the zoning amendment bylaw number 473, 2021 be given 3rd reading, and that the zoning amendment bylaw 473, 2021 be given 4th and final. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. New business. This is where you wanted to bring something forward, CAO?
Yes, thank you. And actually, Mayor Baker, I just wanted to point out that I think in approving the minutes that we may have missed the March 30 approval. I think the meeting that was intended to be held yesterday was, of course, canceled due to quorum issues, but the March 30th was the in-camera meeting that we need to approve the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, my
Yeah,
fault.
easy to miss.
Okay, so let's go back. Recommended resolution that the minutes from the special council meeting held on March 30th, 2021 be adopted. So approved. So do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, CAO. And under new business, CAO?
Yes, and I actually have new business. I wanted to get council's thoughts on hosting a virtual town hall to discuss the official community plan. We've had a reasonable response rate of the survey so far, but individuals that I've just talked to casually on the street sort of vaguely knew about the survey, but maybe didn't think that it was something that we'd really appreciate their feedback on. So I thought it might be fun to have a virtual town hall where we could have the consultants maybe do a short presentation and we could have just an informal discussion with citizens about their interests early in the process, so that does give them an opportunity to consider their responses on the survey. And it would provide some direct feedback to council as to the OCP and some of the citizens' questions about where things are. And it could be a really useful and sort of a fun conversation. So I wanted to get a sense of whether council would like to have staff set that up. I would suggest that we do it on a Tuesday evening when people are available, so we could pick, some either next Tuesday or the following at the end of the month. I guess that is the end of the month. So we would have the 27th, or the 27th would be the best, but we could move it into May. And the consultants were asked about this, and they seem to be keen to be available as well. So
okay. I could see doing it. We want to make sure we give people ample notice and get them involved. So I think next Tuesday might be a little soon, but I'm definitely for it. So Councillor Kushner, are you for it?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Councillor Craig?
Absolutely.
Councillor Tinsley?
Yes.
And Councillor Polson? Councillor Polson?
Lordy, I think it would be a great idea.
Okay, so we'll move ahead, setting that up, please, CAO.
right.
I think it's probably going to be better off in May.
Yes, and then we can put it in our newsletter to promote it a bit.
I agree. Yeah, and have it on a very regular basis on social media and on the website. I think would also be great. Okay, so public question period is a maximum 15 minutes. The purpose of the question period is to permit people in the gallery to ask questions about the issues discussed by council during a meeting. Speakers will be allowed to ask one question each. If time permits, after everyone has had the opportunity to ask questions, speaker may allow to ask a second question. For the record, they would state their name and address. Being that this is held electronically, do we have any questions submitted in writing?
No, we do not have any tonight, other than the letters that were included within the correspondence.
Okay, thank you. So in camera is none. And recommended resolution that the regular council meeting for April 20th, 2021 be adjourned. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second it.
Second.
Discussion? Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carried. Thank you very much, everybody. You have a wonderful week.